Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we are about to play First Rat. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. My goal is this video can not only teach you to play, but can be shown at the game table to help set up and teach the game at your next game session. As part of that goal, I've added chapter timestamps in the description to the different sections of the tutorial to easily recap relevant rules for you. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. The rats in the junkyard have been telling each other legends for generations about a moon made of cheese, and they want nothing more than to reach it one day. The rat children then stumble across a comic in their junkyard that illustrates man's first landing on the moon, and they get inspired. The rats now have a plan to build their own rocket to take over the cheese moon. Within the junkyard, the rats find all the materials they need to construct rockets with the help of other animals nearby. Each rat family strives to collect and build the most rocket parts and train the most ratronauts to be able to feast on as much of the lunar cheese as possible. Let's take a look at how to set up the game. The game board is double-sided, offering a standard setup and a variable setup. For your first game, simply play the standard side with pre-printed spaces. Create supply piles near the game board of the various resources. There's vinegar, baking soda, tin cans, calculators, and cheese. The single cheeses are 1 and the half cheeses are 3. There's also moldy cheese worth negative points. Put the awards in a pile above the board too. Shuffle the 10 bottle caps face down and turn 6 of them face up. Put these in the Madcap Crow's booth area of the game board and return the rest to the game box. You'll put out a number of energy drink tokens in Zippy the Frog's booth equal to 1 more than the number of players in your game. Return any extra drink tokens to the box. Now mix up and shuffle together the 10 backpack tokens. Reveal a number of them face up into Harry Hamster's booth depending on player count. You should have 3 more than the number of players in your game. Return the rest of the backpacks to the game box. Next, mix up the comics tokens and reveal 6 to go face up in the library area found at the bottom right of the board. For your first game, they suggest removing the 4 Super Rats comics, but I encourage you to include them. Return any unused comics tokens to the box. Each player should choose a rat family among the 5 colors available. You'll get 4 rats, a rat burrow marker, light string marker, 10 score markers, and a player aid. Everyone should put 2 of their rats on the start space of the junkyard path. The other 2 should go in the nursery in the middle of the rat's burrow. Everyone places their rat burrow token on the start space on the burrow path facing right. Then, everyone places their light string marker on the start space of the light string track. Keep your player aid in front of you with 8 score markers. You'll set aside 2 of them. I actually recommend everyone puts their extra 2 above the game board for in-game scoring. The player who last 8 cheese gets to be the first player and takes the start rat marker and 1 cheese. The next 2 players clockwise each get 2 cheese. The 4th and 5th players each get 3 cheese. For games with less than 5 people playing, you'll need to add some neutral scoring markers in rats. Look at each of the scoring tracks around the board. In games with 3 or 4 players, you'll need to add gray cubes to cover the rightmost highlighted space on each track. On the Ratronaut score track, place the gray rat on it. In 1 or 2 player games, cover both highlighted spaces of each score track using both rats on the Ratronaut track. You're now set up and ready to play. Players start with 2 of their rats at the start of the junkyard path, which they'll get to move on their turn to spaces to get resources and benefits. Your other 2 rats could be gained during the game, allowing you to move even more rats and getting more stuff. You'll be collecting junkyard materials to build pieces of rocket ships, giving you points. Collecting cheese helps you advance, gain special items, and even pay for points. There's 3 helpful animals who've set up shops at certain points on the path, allowing you to purchase an item or steal it. Apple cores will advance your rat burrow token at the bottom to gain new rats, new special abilities, and points. The The light bulb advances your light string marker on its track during the game to increase your income. There's a lot of strategy involved as to which rats to move and which spaces are worth stopping at any given point. The game continues until one player has all 4 of their rats in the rocket ship, or one player has placed 8 score markers out. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. Play starts with the first player and goes clockwise around the table until one of the end game triggers is met. A single player turn is composed of 4 steps, as demonstrated on your reference card. Move rats, collect resources, optionally go shopping, and optionally build and donate cheese. When moving rats, you choose to either move 1 rat up to 5 spaces or move 2 to 4 rats up to 3 spaces on the path. When moving multiple rats, they must end up on different spaces of the same color. No player can have more than one of their rats on the same space, except the start space. The final space of the junkyard path is the launch pad and has all 5 colors. It can be any color you want it to be when you move there. You may occupy the same space as other players' rats. In that case, you must pay the player 1 cheese. If multiple players are there, give each of them 1 cheese. It's possible to have to pay the same player multiple cheeses for occupying multiple same spaces. Should you not have enough cheese to pay someone, you can still go there, but gain a moldy cheese token with 3 normal cheese tokens. The moldy cheese can't be spent or given away. It will give negative points to that player at the end of the game. You can only gain moldy cheese when needing to pay another player. Along the junkyard path, you'll find a few shortcut pipes if you look closely. You may choose to use the shortcut path when advancing rats as long as you pay the resource shown on it. The pipe itself doesn't count as a space. These allow you to advance further up the path with less movement. Remember, you can only move in a forward direction up the path towards the rocket ship. After all movement, then you will collect resources from the spaces you just moved your rats to. Rats not moved this turn don't collect resources. All the yellow spaces provide you cheese tokens from the supply. Take as many as are shown on the space. This token counts as 3 cheese. The green and orange spaces provide various building materials like vinegar, tin cans, baking soda, and calculators. Just look at what's shown on the space. The blue spaces give you light string advancements for each light bulb shown. Move your light string marker forwards on its track from one light bulb to the next. If you move on to the construction light, place one of your score markers on the construction light's score track. There's 3 obtainable along the track. Advancing your light marker improves your income yield when one of your rats lands on a space that your marker has reached or passed. You'll gain 1 more of the shown resource, whatever it is. There are 3 specific spaces on the board that are pointing to a booth managed by a friendly animal. After you've collected resources from the space, you can choose to shop there to gain an item or not. To gain an item at the booth, either pay the shown amount of cheese or steal the item to avoid paying it. If you steal it, return this rat to the start space of the junkyard path. It's not a terrible idea since you'll be able to get more benefits from the early spaces after you've advanced your light marker. If you moved rats to multiple shops, you can shop at each one of your rats moved to. You can gain at most 1 item from the shop each time you go there. This booth is run by Harry Hamster, this one by Zippy the Frog, and this one by the Madcap Crow. The last step of your turn is to build rocket parts and or donate cheese for the flight to the cheese moon. If you have the resources required and so desire, you can now spend materials to place your score token on the corresponding score tracks of the board. You can build any number of items you can pay for. To donate cheese, you pay 10 cheese to the supply and place one of your score markers on the cheese donation score track. There are 3 buildable rocket parts. Thrusters cost 5 vinegar bottles and 2 baking sodas. Cargo bays cost 3 baking sodas and 2 tin cans. Cockpits cost 2 calculators and 1 tin can. Immediately place your score marker on the corresponding track when paying for it. The sooner you build or donate, the more points you will score. Remember, you can build as much as you want, even the same thing, multiple times on the same turn. Likewise, you can make multiple cheese donations on a turn, spending 10 cheese with each donation. Additionally, anytime you build a set of 3 rocket parts, meaning you have one of your cubes on the score tracks for the cockpit, cargo bay, and thruster, you get to immediately score the rocket track. It's above these 3. Anytime you add a score marker to a score track, place it in the furthest left empty space. Skip over any neutral tokens that may be present. There's not a limit to how many markers can go on a track. Once the first individual spaces are full, group the rest at the right side. They'll all score the rightmost points. Any player can have any number of their markers on a given track. Let's take a further look at some of the game mechanisms you'll see in First Rat. For instance, when you gain the Apple Core resource, you'll get to move your Rat Burrow token on the track at the bottom of the board. These move one space at a time in a clockwise direction. You'll see the arrows for where the token can be moved to. You'll first have to round the corner at the end, then decide to move forwards or make another turn. There's 3 turns you could make to gain a benefit. When you land on the center space or move past it, you get the benefit. The first turn option is the library, where you can gain a comic token for its ongoing benefit. The second turn option is to gain a new rat from the nursery. The new one will immediately go to the start space of the track. You can gain up to 2 more rats during the game. The final turn is the stored food area, where you can place a score token on the scoring track found in the burrow. Once your Rat Burrow token is moved to the top row again, you must turn right and keep going until you get to the very end again. It's not allowed to keep circling the middle burrow or left burrow. The comics from the library give the rats inspiration with the images, regardless of the fact that they don't understand human language. These tokens provide unique advantages you use starting with your next turn. These 2 tokens show a tunnel, which you could now travel without paying the costs on them. Look for the 2 yellow or 2 red shortcuts on the board specifically. This comic lets you avoid having to pay opponents cheese when landing on a space with other rats. This comic lets you advance multiple rats up to 4 spaces instead of 3. Moving a single rat as your turn, it can still only go up to 5. This comic means your rats are colorblind and can't distinguish between the orange and green spaces. When moving multiple rats, they can end their movement on both green and orange spaces. This comic lets you pay 1 less building material when constructing one of the 3 rocket parts. There are 4 unique comics that turn your rats into super rats, giving them special powers. Each one of them comes with a rat piece that gets inserted into your rat token. Choose any one of yours on the junkyard path to upgrade and gain the ability. This one is Neil Ratstrong. That rat can now advance as far as he wants, even all the way to the launch pad. He's not allowed to steal items from the shops, so can never return to the start space. If he is in the rocket at the end of the game, he scores double points. This is Lola Rat. She can move up to 2 additional spaces however you move her. This ability stacks with the comic adding movement for multiple rats, so she could go up to 6 while the others move up to 4. This super rat is Arnold Rattenegger. When he moves and collects resources, you gain 1 extra resource. The last super rat is Ratwoman. When she stops and shops for items, she doesn't have to pay. She can never steal and never returns to the start space. Now let's look at the 3 shops more closely and see what items they provide. Remember, only 1 item can be stolen or purchased per shop per turn. The first one you come to is Harry Hamster's booth. He constructs clever backpacks for the rats to use to carry more stuff to their rocket. Players can have up to 1 of each kind. A backpack costs 6 cheese if purchased. The orange and green backpacks work similarly based on rats collecting resources from the orange or green spaces, respectively. None of the backpacks give you extra per space. When gaining resources there, you get 1 extra building material in total of one of the types being collected. The cheese backpack lets you gain 2 extra cheese in total when gaining cheese. The light bulb backpack gives you 2 extra light bulbs in total when collecting them. Lastly, the apple core backpack gives you 2 additional apple cores in total when collecting apple cores. Zippy the frog has been super quick ever since she fell into an old can of red rat as a tadpole. Ever since she's been collecting and selling this magic energy potion, but the effects only last for a short time. The energy drinks sell for 7 cheese. If you have an energy drink, you may flip it over while collecting resources to double your collection amount. First, add up bonuses from comics, backpacks, and your Lightstring token. Then, double that number and gain that many resources. Keep the drinks flipped over near you because one of the bottle cap scoring tokens can give you points for them even if used. Players can only use 1 per turn. The last shop is Madcap Crow's booth, who sells bottle caps. She must drink a lot since she tells unbelievable stories, including the fact that she's flown to the moon. Her expertise has been in demand since the rocket project began, as the rats would inquire the best way to get their rocket to fly. She's happy to reward the rats' plans and good ideas with bottle caps. The caps sell for 12 cheese. Each collected bottle cap can score points for that player at the end of the game. I'll explain each in the scoring section. The last space of the junkyard path is the launch pad. It can count as any color space you want it to be to move there. By reaching the final space, the rat becomes a ratronaut and part of the crew that will fly, or try to fly, to get to the cheese moon. Place the rat in the leftmost empty space of the ratronaut score track. You'll immediately gain a reward. You can either gain a new rat from your nursery, putting it at the start space of the junkyard path, or take one award token from the supply. These are worth 3 points at the end of the game. All rats placed on the Ratronaut score track remain for scoring at the end and never move again. A game of First Rat goes turn after turn until one player triggers the end in one of two ways. Either a player moves their fourth rat onto the launch pad, or a player places their 8th score marker. In the case of putting 4 rats on the rocket, finish the current round so all players had an equal number of turns. In the case of placing their 8th score marker, finish the current round and play one additional full round before ending the game. The extra 2 score markers set aside during setup can be used for scoring, but never more than 10. Grab the score pad included in the game and write everyone's names at the top to score their points below. First, enter the points collected from each of the 8 different score tracks. There's the complete rocket track, cockpit, cargo bay, and thruster tracks, cheese provision track, ratronauts in the rocket, construction light track, and the stored food track. Any of these that you've placed multiple score tokens, make sure to add them together. Next, you'll score points for any bottle caps you've collected. Then add 3 points for each award you've gained and subtract 2 points for each moldy cheese you have. Finally, gain 1 point for every 4 resources you have in total among the vinegar, baking soda, tin cans, calculators, and cheese. Whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie, whoever has the most ratronauts in the rocket wins. Otherwise, they share the victory. Let's review here what the different bottle cap scoring methods are. This one is worth 12 points, but for each of your score markers on the 3 rocket materials tracks, lose 2 points. You'll never lose points for having this cap. This cap gives you 2 points for each backpack, energy drink, comic, and bottle cap that you have, including this one. The rest of the bottle caps work the same, giving you points per scoring marker that you have on the 8 tracks. This is 4 points for each on the stored food track, cockpit, ratronaut, and construction lights track. This is 6 points for each marker on the rocket track, 5 points for markers on the cheese provisions, cargo bay, and thruster tracks. The reverse side of the main game board allows for variable gameplay. Firstly, mix all 8 score track markers face down and draw one at a time to cover the empty track spaces on the board. You won't place one on the rocket score track, it stays the same. Return the remaining one to the game box. Doing this will keep each game fresh as far as which tracks to try to go for the most points. The second thing to do on this side of the board is to locate the 26 junkyard path tiles and sort them face down into stacks by letter. Shuffle each group separately. Starting with A, place one from the stack face up on each A empty space of the junkyard path. Once the A path is full, continue with the B tiles and draw them out to cover the spots for B spaces. Then proceed with the C, D, and E tiles over the whole junkyard path. This will randomize where all the resource spaces are each game, leaving you to figure out the best movement strategy each game. Some aspects of the game may become stronger, while others may become weaker. First Rat can be played solo against an AI opponent named Greg the Robo-Rat. Greg ignores most of the rules and only cares about winning. You'll set up the game just like for 2 players using either the standard board side or variable board. Choose a color for yourself like normal and set yourself up on the board like normal. Give Greg a color and place his 4 rats on the junkyard path. 1 at the start, 1 at space 1, 1 at space 5, and 1 at space 8. He doesn't use the light string or rat burrow tokens. Find the solo cards included in the game and sort them into 3 stacks by letter, A, B, and C. Shuffle the A and B stacks separately. Now you'll create his deck based on a difficulty setting. There's 4 to choose from: easy, medium, difficult, or unfair. You'll deal face down a number of A cards and a number of B cards to shuffle together to create a deck. For example, with the medium difficulty, draw 6 A cards and 4 B cards. The chart for the difficulty adjustment is on page 11 of the rulebook. Lastly, add the C card underneath the stack. Return all unused cards to the game box unseen. Choose an unused color and place 1 score marker just off the board next to each of the score tracks except the Ratronaut and Rocket tracks. You are the start player. Now let's look at how Greg plays his turns. Greg never collects resources, but if you're to pay him cheese, pay it to the supply. On his turn, reveal the top card from his deck. The top move shown is how far his rat in front moves, then second row for his second rat, and so on. If one of his rats moves onto the launch pad, any extra moves for it are forfeited. If one or more are already on the launch pad, add their movement numbers to the next available rat on the path and advance it further. If he lands on a space with one of your rats, you gain a cheese from the supply. Whenever one of Greg's rats lands on a shop space, mix the tiles face down and return 1 to the game box. His rats never steal or go back to start. While he moves all his rats each turn, he doesn't follow the same color space rules. He can even occupy the same space as his other rats. Some of his cards show special icons in the lower right corner. This one means he adds a score marker from the unplayed color to the shown track. If it's already there, he adds one of his own score markers instead. Then return the unplayed score marker back to next to the track. On the next one, he moves that marker to the track, and so on. This process is referred to as preparing the score track. With this icon, Greg prepares the score track where he would gain the most points. If there are several where he would score the most, you choose which one. Then reshuffle the face-up cards back into his deck. When revealing this icon, mix all the comics in the library face down and return 1 randomly to the game box. Put the remaining back in the library. The end of the game is triggered and handled the same as a multiplayer game. Add up your points first, then Greg's. If you have more points, you win. The game includes solo challenges in addition to playing with an increased difficulty level. Each challenge can be achieved at each difficulty level, which you can checkmark in the rulebook when accomplished. It's on page 12. For example, win without placing any rats in the rocket, win without any backpacks, energy drinks, comics, bottle caps, or win with all 4 rats in the rocket. There's 9 challenges, so go for them all. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. If you want to support the channel, now you can. We've started a Patreon page at patreon.com/Meeple Mentor. There's various pledge levels for small monthly support that helps grow the channel's content. You can get access to new content early, you'll get to vote on new game tutorials that come out on the channel, and more. But of course, simply watching our videos, liking, commenting, and all of that YouTube stuff certainly helps. Thank you so much. Consider giving us a subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video, or check out the latest news video to learn about what's going on in the board gaming industry. There's always new games coming out. Until next time, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you later.